Right, we're here with Robin Vincent.
Hello. Hello. How you doing?
There's no ice to break here because Rob V, as we used to call him, we go back a long way. Robin and I used to work together in Turnkey.
Yeah, we did.
When was that? Back in 2000?
So I'd been there a while, I think. You were a new boy. So, those were the times.
They were. Those are back in the days when music was not in a computer. It was actually, you had to buy instruments and you could sell music in those days.
You could, but it was the start of the computer thing. That was it. Everything was focusing into the box, and all the hardware seemed old hat somehow, you know.
Absolutely. So, Robin, you've got a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And I've been keeping tabs on you, and it's grown quite substantially over. You've had it for about 3 years now.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah.
And you go by the name of Molten Music, but we're talking about Molten Modular for this.
Yeah, I mean, it all sort of kicked off at Synthfest a few years ago. That I was doing more writing about synthesizers, hardware, as well as computer stuff. But then I just got bitten by this modular thing. It sort of creeps up on you when you don't least expect it. Yeah. And so I've been then plotting my journey, I suppose, from fumbling beginnings into trying to put together what modular is about, what Eurorack is about, how that works, and I've been sharing that journey along the way, and people seem to resonate with that quite well.
You know, Robin, I remember you wrote a book back in I think of 2000 or 1999. It was called The Introduction to PC Music.
Yes. PC Music, the Easy Guide.
And that was probably you were one of the forerunners. It was probably one of the very first.
Yeah, no, that's right. I mean, at that time, everything was Mac-based. Everyone who was doing anything was doing it on Apple. And I'd come into Turnkey to sell PC software, Windows software. And no one knew anything about it. And I found myself just standing in the shop with a huge line of people answering questions every day about how to get software to work, how to get MIDI interfaces to work, what sound cards were possible. And so it just seemed like there was no information. I mean, there was no internet, for God's sake. I mean, there was no information out there on how you do these things. And so I started gathering that sort of stuff together and I put it into a book. And that worked as well. I had a bit of a website thing going once the internet came in and started getting those things going. Well, there was internet. I'm talking nonsense, but there wasn't that kind of information about. There was nothing to be found.
But it's interesting as well because that information, if you'd read it now, as you say, in those days that information wasn't available. But if you look at YouTube now, there's an abundance of information and a lot of misinformation as well from people claiming to be experts.
Oh, definitely. My take on things is that I can only talk about what I know. I don't see any point in talking about a concept of what's going to be good or what's going to be bad. I can say I've tried this out and this is how I feel about it. And that's how I approach computers, certainly. So I've recently done a little series on building an audio PC, and I got a lot of comments from people going, oh yeah, but what about this? And what about this processor? And isn't this better? And isn't that better? It's like, well, maybe, but this is what I've done, and that's worked. So that's what I'm trying to present. So I'm very much into the idea of talking about a real world experience of something rather than just making stuff up from a list of specs,
Absolutely, and I think as a YouTuber, I think people I get loads of recommendations. Oh, you should talk about this, you should talk. I think at the end of the day, you have to really just sort of focus and as you say, talk about what you know and what you're passionate about.
Yeah, I think that's right, because people can sense honesty.
Yes.
If you're not transparent online, people sense that, and you'll receive that in abundance, I think. So I think speaking honestly about stuff is the only way that you can go, and sometimes that can be a bit harsh. You're not necessarily going to get all the favors from all the places you could be getting, but I think it's right to talk about the struggles that we have as much as the, wow, this is awesome, because everything is awesome. I mean, just look around you, it's all fantastic. Look at this, and then look at this, and then look at this. So it's not a question of, is something awesome? It's a question of, how easy is this to work? How does the workflow invite me in? Is this an enjoyable process? Those are the sort of things that interest me now more, I think.
And also, I love your presentation style, because I thought my videos were long, but yours are really long. But I think we don't cater for people with short concentration spans. But I like your videos, Robin. You're a little bit like it's this real sort of nutty professor. And it's like, whoa, and what's this going to do? And there's a lot of that.
Yeah, I think so, because I am ultimately excited by these things. It's like, wow, this is just amazing. Look at what it does is just super. So I think that comes across. I mean, there's also hours of stuff that's on the cutting room floor, I do a lot when I make videos, and so I have to do a fair bit of editing. But that's, in some ways, that keeps everything a bit sharper. And it's worth putting the time in. Because sometimes you watch videos where they're unedited completely, and they can just drag. So I'm completely into chopping it and making myself appear better than I really am. But yeah, I think you have to approach it as yourself, and you have to think, would I want to watch this? I think is another part of it. And funny enough, I do watch myself a lot. Do you do that?
I watch myself a lot, and it's a bit creepy. Sometimes I get annoyed with myself. I'm like, oh, shut up. Oh, it's me.
Yeah, that's right.
Robin, it's interesting. As I say, you're a PC man. And if we talk back in the days of turnkey.
Sorry, Phil Oakley just walked past.
Phil Oakley just walked past.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Did you get that?
He's behind us now. Don't look.
Oh, can you get him?
Sorry,
well, that's a good bit of cameo work, isn't it?
Sorry, you were saying?
Yeah, I'll just stand here so we can get him. You've got very good peripheral vision, I must say.
Yeah.
We were talking about. Oh yes. So round about Robin Vincent, or Rob V as we used to call him, he was the product specialist in Turnkey, and he knew a lot of stuff. He was the first man who taught me, who spoke about the word MP3. MP3s were quite new at that time. This is going back a long time. So to those of you who are younger, this is kind of, before when the internet was still new and everything.
Yeah.
But the point I'm trying to make is, this was a time where people were a lot of big studios were using PCs, and then it was it eMagic that used to own Logic, and then Apple bought Logic, and then shock horror, the only way you could continue to use Logic was to buy an Apple. And I know a lot of people made that switch, but you have remained ever so faithful to PCs.
Yeah, I have. There's reasons for that. Some of it is bloody mindedness. Some of it is just because, these Mac guys, they do my nut in, and there's something about wanting to not prove them wrong, but just prove that this technology also works. Because everyone disses the PCs, particularly in those days, but that's because everyone was running crap computers. A crap computer is a crap computer. It doesn't matter what you're running on it. So you can't compare a £2,000 Apple Mac with a 200 quid Tesco's computer. So once...
Tesco's computer?
Yeah.
He's very honest. Oh, how about a Sainsbury's computer?
Yeah, well, maybe.
Cut!
But once you started investing the same sort of, not the same sort of money, half as much money in a Windows computer, you could build something as good, that would work just as well, that would perhaps have more power for not anywhere near the money. But it just had to be built right. That's right. You can't assume that it's going to work, because Windows has to work with a vast range of bits of hardware, whereas Apple Mac OS just has to work with one thing. And so it's easier to get that right. It's more difficult with Windows. I'm not trying to pretend that it's an equal playing field, but it absolutely, with the right machine, with the right work on it, not too much work, it could do the job. And you would learn more about that machine because you would have had some input into making it work.
That's absolutely right, because I know PCs are a bit more user-friendly, as probably not to the end user, but you can actually get under the hood and change things yourself. Robin, what is the name of your? Where can the viewers get your channel? It's Molten Music.
Molten Music Tech is the YouTube channel, but if you search for Molten Music Technology or Molten Modular, I've got websites which bounce off all those sorts of things. So yeah, you'll find me.
Fantastic. Well, Robin, as I say, it's good to see you. I do want to actually, because you live in Sheffield as well?
No, I live in Norfolk.
Norfolk, because we were planning an interview, but life got in the way. But I do want to really get up and have a longer, in-depth interview, because there's a lot we can chat about.
That'd be great, yeah.
And you said you'd cook lunch.
Yeah, most definitely.
That's fantastic. And we'll have a camera in there. You can have the Robin Vincent cookery class.
Yeah. No, I make some mean pasta things.
I believe you. Robin, thank you so much, mate. And we're going to hang around, and I'll definitely interview you. All the best.